everybody, and welcome. You're really far away. Get over here. Get over here. This is weird. That's better. But what I wanted to go over right now is I got a question and a comment from one of you, and I can't remember who it was now, so apologies. But thank you for your question. Questions you guys give me make making videos a lot easier, and at least I'm talking about something you guys actually want to know about. So that's very helpful. The question was, how do I theme my chapbooks? And first off, there's no wrong or right way to do it. But there are some things that you can do to make it a lot easier. We'll go over the 3 ways that I think you can do it and explain why some are more difficult than others. So typically what I do, and I have a video of me actually doing this, and I will put it here if I could find it. But what I do is I'll write a bunch of poems, okay, about just anything. And usually at the end of the month, I try to do it more regularly than that, but it's usually the end of the month. I will take all the poems I've written and I'll put them in a spreadsheet where the first column is the titles, and then the second column is what the theme of the poem is. And then the next columns are what collections they're going to go into, or if I'm sending them out. I don't really send stuff out anymore, but I would put what magazine I sent it to on what date, and then I would add what date it got accepted or rejected. And then I have 3 columns for that. Because after I send a poem out 3 times, I'm over it. I don't care anymore. And so basically what I do is I will try to use the same word for the themes. So let me see. What do I have here? Okay, so for instance, what ended up becoming Shit Poems, which is available now at mattwallart.com. There's only a few of these left. Or you could get the ebook on Amazon. There, I plugged Amazon. Go do that. And if you get stuff from the links down below, I get a kickback. So all the poems that are in this book, when I was writing in the spreadsheet, I would just write shit. Or maybe I put bathroom. I think bathroom is what I put. And so I had a bunch of poems that were about that. And so when it's time for me to do a monthly book, I will find one of the words in the themes and just do Control F and put bathroom. And then it'll tell you how many times that word comes up in the thing. Once that word hits anywhere from 14 to 20 or something like that, I'm oh, that's enough material for a book. So it's not I go in writing usually it's not I go in and I'm going to write a book about blah. And then I just write a bunch of poems about that. That's actually one of the ways, and we'll talk about why that's difficult in a second. But I just write to write. And so when I get my themes, once it hits that number, I know I have enough material there to put a book out. As far as, and then Type Drunk. This was poems on writing. So I would just put writing and then look. And that's kind of how this happened, and which will get me to my next point. I ended up having a ridiculous amount of poems about being creative and how to write, or just writing in general. And when I searched that word, I can't remember how many poems it was. It was 40 some odd poems, or no, it had to have been more than that. It was a big number. And so once I saw that, I was oh, I need to whittle this down, or my theme is too broad. Because if your theme's too broad, then the poems are kind of related, but it could be tighter. It could be more concise. So yeah, so there were too many. So then I took a bunch of those down and I started going through the poems, and I'm okay, well, if these are all like this, what? Because another one I have is I had a topic called rage, and rage was good, but it was also too broad. And I ended up with like, I think there were like 37 poems under that. So then I had to go back through all those poems and try to find a like tighter theme. So one of them would be like going to Walmart. And then I ended up with the Mart book. Some of them are like driving, crazy things that would happen when I was driving or something like that, you know? So that would make that a little different or more concise. Okay. Which is good. So that's the first way I do it. I don't do anything like on purpose. I just create and let myself be. And once I get enough topics or enough poems under a certain topic, then I'll put a book out. The second way to do a book is to do it, like I said, which is kind of a iffy way to do it, which is you being like, I'm going to write a book about, because this is an example, I'm going to write a book about Uber drivers. Okay. And so I jotted down a bunch of ideas that I was going to write about Uber drivers, started writing the poems, but then I felt like I was forcing a lot of the poems, and the poems weren't flowing freely. They weren't just like coming out of my hands. You know what I'm saying? So because of that, I kind of slowed down that project. And now I'm going back to the idea where as I write poems about that and I get enough, then I'll put the book out. Because whenever I like try to force myself to do something, the poems come forced. With the exception of if you, I'll put a video or a link for this one too. If you do my writing a chapbook in an hour thing, we do it in Anarchy Crew a lot sometimes too during the writing Zooms, which by the way, if you are an Anarchy Crew, I apologize for how not on those have been. If I'm honest, the absence of Jeff has kind of left a void in me during those calls. And a lot of you also were having stuff going on. So hopefully next week or the week after next, we could get back on a better routine for Anarchy Crew members. Sorry about that. The other way to do a chapbook, which I've been doing more and more lately because I'm noticing that when I write, I am more intentional, meaning the things I'm writing about, for the most part, at any given time, tend to follow a certain theme without me like trying to. They just do. So, like for instance, the latest chapbook, The Road to West Hollywood, this book was easy to put together because for a short while I was staying in the Valley. And so these poems were all written while I was living in the Valley and getting ready to come here. You know what I'm saying? So now that I've been here, it would be really easy for me to write a book about West Hollywood because now I've been in West Hollywood and it's been a thing now. This was just the road here. I could have easily just called this book Poems I Wrote in the Valley, you know, but I think The Road to West Hollywood had a sexier ring to it. An easier way to explain that. When you are writing poems that are, I don't want to say time sensitive, but there will be a lot of times in your life, like especially if you're going through a breakup or there's like some tragedy in your life or in your family, or you're going on a trip or something like that, that putting a chapbook together based on date, like from this date to this date, makes a lot of sense because a lot of the poems that you're going to be writing, a lot of the things you're going to be working through are like stages in a moment in time. So that one is like that. What book was that? A lot of my early books, like All My Friends Are Dead, Exhausted Bird, Ingrown Air, Acid, DNF'd. Those books were all time periods. Like, I think All My Friends Are Dead was written in December of 2017. I think. Maybe 16. I can't remember. But then Exhausted Bird was written in January. And then I think Ingrown Air was like February and March. All the poems I wrote during that period. So writing a collection based on a time period is a really easy way, and usually there will be a through line with your theme. But the going back to the first way we were talking about, doing it by an actual word, like an actual theme. I'm not going to lie to you guys. The trouble you're going to have with selling those, it's going to drive you crazy because you're going to fall into different traps. So, for instance, I have a book called P.O. Box 3054, and all the poems in there are poems about the post office out in the desert that I used to go to. Like, that was like my only source to the outside world, and the people that I observed inside that post office. Believe it or not, okay, this is going to come as a shock to you guys. People were not interested really in reading poems about a post office in the desert. I know. I thought this would be a slam dunk, but it kind of wasn't. Death by Datura was kind of the same way. Again, just poems about living in the desert. But then there's been, and Mart, that's another one. I really thought poems about Walmart would really like sink in with people. They would go, oh yeah, I could relate to that. But no, people aren't that fucking excited about it. Shocker. But books I have written that did sell well, like Pharma Phoenix Rises, which was about mental health, which, to be honest, I think writing a book about mental health as a poet is it's probably the second, like, most common topic that poets write about. Because the first topic is usually heartbreak or love, okay? So then their mental health, because of all the shit that happened with the love poems they wrote, they're like, oh no, I need to be on medication and I need to be seeking therapy. And so that next book is almost inevitable. It's like, it's going to happen. So there's that. Those sell really good. Shit poems, because it was so kind of gross. Not gross, but like a weird thing. That sold really well. All the type books, like Type Drunk, like I only have a couple copies of that left, but like I'm trying to remember which ones sold first, because I thought Type Hard would sell faster than the rest, and Type Fast and Type Daily sold out before Type Hard did, which I thought was weird. Poems about fucking, that sold out like crazy because you guys are a bunch of perverts. The poems about LA, those ones did good. And I don't know if it's just because like a lot of people are interested in LA or a lot of people are interested in my lifestyle right now. And that's why people bought it. But The Road to West Hollywood, it's selling okay. But at the same time, putting out The Road to West Hollywood has been very different because and again, I don't mean this in an insulting way, but I have to retrain my audience to buy print books again from me. Okay? Because like once you start doing it and you have a cycle and you're doing it all the time, people will understand like, oh, it's the next month. What's the next book going to be? And then it's like, it becomes an event. When you do something kind of just like, oh, here it is, bleh, like people aren't they don't jump on it until it becomes almost a new form of an addiction. Okay. And again, like, I don't mean to say that to be rude to my fans or the people who read my shit. Okay. And like for you guys, like the people who are going to read your stuff, but it's just how marketing works. Like, you want your readers, you want your fan base to like froth at the mouth and crave you putting out new material. If you don't have that, then you don't have an audience. Okay. Like, a lot of you who watch certain TV shows, you know exactly when the new season of your show is going to start. And then you start building, if it's like a weekly thing, you know, oh, it's Tuesday. I got to get everything done by 8 o'clock so I could watch my show. That is what you need to curate in your audience. And if you don't have that, you don't really have an audience. You have casuals. Okay. And casuals are great. You know, casuals probably make up, I don't know, like a third to half of my audience, but they don't get to everything I do. But the people who like just get like super excited, those are the people you need to really like push. Those are the people you want to do stuff for. Now, I'm getting off topic here, and I probably need to bring it back a little bit. Going back to, it's so funny. This was supposed to be a really quick video, and I've turned this into an absolute masterclass in how to just talk. And it's also past midnight, so I'm just like barely hanging on here. But another thing, so going back to like books by date, okay? Like, What the Fuck is Happening? That book was poems that I wrote in March one year and then March the following year to kind of see how far I've grown. And so that was kind of a cool theme, but it was also based on a time frame. Okay. Let me see. One Man Massacre, I think, was a write a chapbook in the hour kind of thing. On the Beach is the one that the video is about that I'm going to have linked down below. But you just getting back to theming, you have to be very careful of what you're theming your books about, because the problem is if you end up like me and you're like, God damn it, I have all these copies of my Walmart book that I think is really good, but people just didn't like buy it. But like when I write erotic poetry or poems about fucking and shit like that, people love that. And so then you start going, oh, now I need to just write more poems about sex. I need to write more poems about mental health. I need to write more poems about heartbreak. And then what you end up doing, okay, this is very dangerous. You end up making your life shitty so you can write those poems. Okay, well, for instance, of like heartbreak or mental health, you stay in a fucked up mental health spot and then try to get out of it just so you have material to write about. This is not the way to go. Do not do that. But I hope that was helpful. If you guys have any follow-up questions, because I know I kind of bounced all over the place. But basically, the way to theme your chapbooks is to just write and make some sort of list of the themes you write about. And once you have enough poems, put that book together. Two, do more of a journal type thing where it's like from this date to this date. Why the fuck does this happen? I just did this. Is this balloons? Is this balloons? Unbelievable. So there's that. And then the third one would be writing a book in an hour, or theming a book and then writing that book. When I say write the book in an hour, I put that in with the theming just because the way I do that workshop, it's like we will write a poem and then we take a bunch of things out of that poem to then make a book. So that workshop's called the Endless Poem Workshop. The Chapbook in an Hour workshop's a little bit different, but yeah, and there's a couple different ways to do the Endless Poem workshop. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Long story over. So that's how I do it. But the best advice I could give is just write whatever you want to write, and write and write and write and write and write. And then once you feel like you got a big chunk of poems, go back and look and see if there's some sort of theme you can pull from that. That's the best advice I could give on that. Even though I just like was on a damn sermon right now. So type hard, guys. Go to mattwallart.com until the end of the month, April 2025, and pick up Shit Poems and Type Drunk. Again, I think there's 2 of these and 3 of these left. The Road to West Hollywood, this is going to be up for a while because it's not one of these older ones. You could also pick up some of my books like The End of Everything or When Your Mom's Taught Me Price for Poetry. And you could also pick up a bunch of my art. There is going to be a studio sale at the end of the month where we are going to be doing like half off on a lot of stuff. So if there's anything of mine that you've had your eye on, like keep your eye on it. Also, Anarchy Crew members get 15% off. So join the crew down below if you want to do that. Hit them thumbs, like this video, share, subscribe, do all the shit. I'm going to be performing at Republic of Pie in North Hollywood on April 24th. So if you are in the Southern California area and you want to hear me sing like a sexy, sexy beast for an hour, definitely come to that. And yeah, I guess that's it. I guess that's all the updates. Okay, so type hard again, guys, and I will talk to you all later.